Women Rediscover Your Strength. It's an NGO in support of victims of domestic violence. And this morning, we have some representatives here to chat with us. Speaking firstly, of course, with the president of the NGO. We're going to call it WRYS this morning, right? WRYS, WRYS. Ms. Kamika McCletchy. And we have two participants as well of the workshop, Ms. Kerry George and Mrs. Deborah Dale Pear. Good morning, ladies. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good. Great. A little cool, but...
Yeah, I mean, that has happened too. That has happened. All right, tell me about Heal My Purple Heart workshop. Or maybe you could tell me about the NGO in general, firstly.
Sure. So, WRYS, it stands for Women Rediscover Your Strength. And we started this NGO in 2018. Having come out of an experience, having come out of a toxic relationship myself, I decided that I needed to have an NGO where we can help persons coming out of those type of relationships, where I could raise awareness and speak out, you know, be a voice for the voiceless, because not everyone is able to talk about what they went through.
Were you able to get help from somebody else to get out as well of your situation?
So in my instance, I had very supportive friends, and I must say that the Mova police station, they really helped me. You know, sometimes you hear a lot of horror stories, but that wasn't the case with me.
All right, so then you got out of your situation, you decided, I want to help other people, so you start this NGO. Yes. And what is the purpose of the NGO?
So the NGO is one, to raise awareness mainly, to counsel persons who are in that sort of relationship, and thirdly, to really help them to go from a victim to a survivor.
How long does that process take?
So it all depends on the person, right? There's no set time span. It all depends on the person and their journey, because sometimes, you know, the hurt is deeper or the damage is deeper than some, and then it depends on how long you stayed in a relationship like that. And
it could also start from before you even realize you were being traumatized.
Yes, and then you remember that some persons can be predisposed to accepting that according to what they went through in their childhood.
That's what I mean. All right. So then there's the Heal My Purple Heart workshop. Tell me about that workshop.
So that workshop was birthed last year. I looked at NGOs. You know, we have a lot of NGOs doing a lot of stuff for women. But when I looked around, I saw that there was a need to really walk with the women and take them through certain steps, not just to be a survivor, but to be an overcomer, to make sure that they do not go back into that type of relationship. And one of the things I remember about myself is that when you are in toxic relationships, you lose your voice and you lose everything about yourself. You become like an empty shell. So I felt that we really needed to help them rediscover themselves.
What does that process look like?
So we take them through an 8 months, different topics we deal with over 8 months. Some of those things are assertiveness, self-esteem, parenting skills. We teach them to start a business. We teach them how to deal with trauma and overcome trauma, how to stand independently. We deal with, what else? You all remember something?
Well, I know saying Deborah, let me talk to Deborah Dale here, because Deborah gave him a trouble since she reached. Deborah, tell me about your experience as a participant in the workshop.
Okay, so I would have met Kamika through my domestic violence. I'm newly Mrs. Pay. At that time, I was another individual. And Kamika, I was put on to Kamika concerning the domestic violence. And when the Heal My Purple Heart started, I attended, but I was in the process of divorcing, because, you know, she said, Deborah Dale, God is going to give you a window of opportunity to run, and when it comes, run. And I literally ran, because my arm was broken in that violence. So I had to pick my children up and run. So coming into the Heal My Purple Heart, I was dealing with the anger, the unforgiveness, just a lot of hurt, because I was in church, right? And the individual was in church. So being there, I was already assertive, so I had to learn to balance that assertiveness and break off anger. And being with Kamika in that in those sessions taught me to smile a lot. I've always smiled, but really smile from my heart, and it taught me to be excellent in the things that I have to do, right? So it did a lot for me, but even in that, I would have gotten married and moved from being a participant to being one of the women speaking to them.
Right.
Because I was determined I had to get out, and I was determined I had to forgive, because I'm a worshiper, so I can't worship and hold anger and animosity in my heart.
I'll get back to that. Let me bring in Kerry, George, here, because I want to find out about your experience. What did you learn throughout the course of the workshop that stuck with you to today?
So what I learned through the experience was that self-awareness, it was the biggest for me, because I really had low self-esteem, and I didn't even know that that was a real thing. I didn't understand what was happening. So that would have been the what stuck with
the
me.
The self-esteem thing is the biggest part of it for you.
It also helped me to truly rediscover my strengths and weaknesses. So from that, I also was able to focus a lot more on my business.
Right.
Yes, I am a certified pedicurist.
Okay, nice.
And after coming out of the workshop, I registered my business, and the business is doing a little better.
So would you say that this workshop has been able to help you feel a little bit more independent?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and able to stand up on your own 2 feet.
It also, sorry,
go ahead,
it
go
also
ahead.
left me with a desire to help other ladies.
Yes. Okay, so this is building a
The
community.
information is wealthy.
So is it Kamika, that you have people who would have successfully passed through the workshop come back and talk to the ladies who are currently going through the process?
So this year will be the second phase. So we only had one phase so far.
Right.
And we do have Deborah, and I'm hoping that Kerry will join us this year, I'm really trying to bring her out, push her out.
All right. Deborah, you said something just now that has me very intrigued, because you mentioned the church, and you said that both of you all were in the church in terms of the perpetrator and you, and you feel the need to, forgive because you are a part of the church and all that stuff. How do we deal with people who are in the church and committing these sort of acts? Is it that we have to name and shame them? Is it that we have to call them out? How do we deal with it? Because the church is meant to be a place of sanctuary.
I want to do the exact same thing that Kamika is doing, but I want to add to it the abusers. The abusers have been abused. And so that's why they abuse. And that's one of the reasons why it was not easy, but it was, the process was, let me say easy, to forgive. Because I had to see through his eyes. And having children with him, I didn't want my girls growing up hating me, because I would have had the opportunity to put him in jail. I canceled everything. I went to court and I told him I'm dropping the case. And even the judge was perturbed about it, but we talk for the sake of the children. We interact for the sake of the children, because having girls, I don't want them to think man bad. All men bad. They are not.
They're going to have a phase in their life when they're going to think so anyway,
But I'm trying to break that cycle.
Okay.
Right? I would have heard things about my father, but I'm my father's daughter. I'm very close to him. And I know those things may have been true, but I didn't care, because I loved my father. And I think that helped me as well forgive my ex-husband. Yeah.
But after you left, were you ever concerned about anything happening again?
At the beginning, yes. So we got a restraining order and stuff. But because of God, because of Kamika, Kamika was really there for me. She would. I don't know if Kamika wasn't there, if I would have been able to leave, right? But at the beginning, yes. But then I was like, you know what? It doesn't make sense living in fear. He's not a beast. He's not a man with horns on his head. He has hurt as well, so that helped as well to be on this journey.
Now, everybody isn't as fortunate as that, because I know situations where we see women who've left the situation and they say, all right, I'm going to move on with my life, and he will be in the past and whatever, and then the past comes back to haunt them. How does this affect women generally in terms of, do we have a lot of women that concern or that situation happening where the men come back and find them?
Yes, we do. We have a lot of women, they have restraining orders and so on. But as we have always heard, it's a piece of paper. So the men do find them, and I know some time back we had the GPS bracelet coming on board,
Right.
and I really feel that needs to be pushed more as it relates to domestic violence, so at least that woman has a fighting chance.
Yeah. Deborah Dill mentioned the children, picking up the children and running with the children.
Yes.
Do we see a lot of situations, or have you seen rather situations where children are affected by the domestic violence in the household?
Definitely. So one of the things, we always focus on the victim, the woman, and as you know, males are also victims, right? So we focus on victims. But I always say that children are secondary victims, and right now I'm really pushing to have something done in the schools to deal with that, because we forget them. And if we don't deal with it from schools, what will happen is that you have another generation of abusers, of perpetrators, victims, and so on, And I just want to piggyback on our question with the church as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things I do want to encourage church leaders and so on to do is not to use scriptures to hide abuse. A lot of times we sweep abuse under the carpet because it's church and because these people are serving in church. We should not do that. We need to speak out against abuse. It exists in churches, and if we understand our scriptures, God does not approve of abuse.
Exactly.
Firmly agree with you 100%. So much I want to add to that, but I won't this morning. I want to however, ask Kerry to give us, to give the ladies looking particularly, some sort of advice that, something that you would have been holding on to, and you said, this is what helped me to get through and overcome. And any ladies that might want that extra motivation and inspiration this morning. Tell them what worked for you and what can probably help them.
Okay, well, what worked for me was my children. That was my hold on. That was I need to get out of this situation because they are looking. But for the ladies that don't have children, there are things that you desire, you want to do, your goals, and if it is you find yourself in a space where you're forgetting that you really like this, then reach out to somebody. Somebody would be able to put you on to another person, and you could get help. There is help.
Were you ever concerned about your children witnessing any sort of domestic violence or being affected by it?
After. Not while in it.
Yeah.
While in it, I kind of was thinking about myself.
Right.
Yeah, but.
And have you seen any effects on it? Have you had conversations with them, or were they too young to really?
Yes, no, we do have conversations about it, because in the beginning I used to stay away from the topic with them, but after coming out of the workshop, I was able to now open up those spaces where we could have conversations.
Fantastic. Kamika, before we wrap up, tell me, how can the public play a part in assisting what you're doing here?
So there are two ways, and I like this question. So the workshops, we always need resources, right? We need finances. And also right now, ITNAC and WRYS, we have teamed up together to have a safe house. So we have the land and so on, and we really want to get that building together. And I believe you all have the
It's up on the screen currently. The account number is right below there if you're seeing it. It's a FCB account, so you can take down the account number, and you can definitely donate to WRYS and ITNAC, you said?
Yes, so the account is under ITNAC, but just let them know it's for the safe house.
Right.
So those funds go towards that or the workshop.
And ITNAC is ITNAC, is there not a cause? Yeah?
Yes.
Ladies, I want to thank you so much for coming on this morning and for sharing your stories with us and for the work that you continue to do. Congratulations, and we look forward to more.
Thank you for having us.
If people want to reach out to you before we wrap, if they want to reach out to you to get some assistance, how can they do so?
So you can reach out to me. My number is 265-5208, and I'm also on Facebook, Woman Rediscover Your Strength. You can send me a message there.
Woman, rediscover your strength. We take a quick break and we come back with more in our morning show. Stick around.